a unique part of the story. Now, it's also one of those things where you do wonder with this one, and of course all the rest that we have talked about tonight, whether or not they're going to, continue with the storyline, do the same storyline that was in, say the books or the movies that were, came beforehand, or if you'll like Snow White and the Huntsman or Maleficent, they're going to take things a complete different direction and show us a whole new, environment for these characters.
Well, I kind of suspect that maybe they'll go and try to stick a little closer to the source material. Just based off of the trailer that was recently put out for Jon Favreau's version of the Jungle Book, it looks like they're going slightly a more edgy version of Jungle Book as opposed to the first movie, the original cartoon movie that came out back in, I think it was the 1960s.
1967.
Thank you. And so, I mean, this looks like it's going to be edgier. Obviously, looking at this, is, in the cartoon, Shere Khan just has a torch, tied to his tail and he runs off. But in, the book and in almost every other version of the Jungle Book that has been put out in theaters, Shere Khan dies at the end of the story. So I am assuming that that's what we're going to see here. I'm actually excited looking at that because the animals actually look like animals. And, there's a couple characters. I know you were kind of mad about what they did with King Louie, who actually, I don't even think he really even appears in the actual book. And what's funny to me is that, Kaa, who's considered one of a minor villain in, the Disney movies, is actually a friend of Mowgli's in the book, and actually is one of the ones who's responsible for saving Mowgli when he gets kidnapped by the monkeys.
Yes. Now, the only reason I'm not a big fan of what they do with King Louie is he almost looks completely identical to one of the orangutans from the latest Planet of the Apes.
Rise of the Planet of the Apes,
yes.
or
or
something, whatever it is.
Really, really identical, and it's disappointing to see that. So I look forward to seeing the storyline that they got there, but at the same point, I'm a little leery because it is such a very popular storyline, a very popular movie. So they have to do it justice.
And that's the question. Can they go off and go in a different direction for Pinocchio and, still go off and make the fans of the original material, or at least the fans of the original cartoon movie, happy? And that's, I think, the big problem with all of these, is that you're going off and you're taking really beloved stories and going off and trying to go off and to reimagine them, live action. And, oftentimes, something gets lost in translation. I know that Maleficent was considered to be a huge hit. It was, I believe, is like Angelina Jolie's, biggest hit out of all her movies. I think it was even a bigger hit than Mr. and Mrs. Smith and the Lara Croft movies that she went off and did in the early 1990s.
Tomb Raider, thank you.
So, obviously people are going to flock out for these stories. You gotta get, you have to question, though, are people going to be willing to do this? Are they going to be willing to go and see these movies on a regular basis? It's been on multiple occasions in the past. It seems like, studios have tried to go off, have tried to do fairy tale movies. And with the exception of Walt Disney, most have fallen flat on their faces. And so, this be any different?
Yeah, and that definitely is a very interesting question. It's not so much beloved storylines. It's so much more than just that. This is beloved, story characters and, the storylines, obviously, but also the emotion, the feeling, the childhood. they're not just reaching the new generation of kids, and they're reaching the old generation of adults, who are now parents, who are, taking their kids to see this. These are characters they grew up with. These are movie storylines that they grew up with.
Exactly. We're multi-generations, because we're talking about not just, parents, but, grandparents that grew up with this stuff.
Yeah, these are storylines that have been around since the early 60s. So, these are definitely, touched a lot of people. So, they have to do it some sort of justice, not just, for entertainment factor. They have to do it for the emotion, the feeling, the background of them. Especially, when you look at Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Winnie the Pooh. You got to look at the history of them.
Absolutely. I know, Winnie the Pooh in particular seems to be one of Walt Disney's most beloved properties, because they've went off and they've continuously tried to redo it. I mean, they went off back in the late 90s and early 2000s. They came out with, I think it was 2 or 3 movies then in theaters. Just a couple years ago, they came out with a new Winnie the Pooh movie, which I actually thought was pretty good. And of course, they've had, made multiple attempts at, TV series. And for the most part, they've been really good as well.
But this is also their first attempt at a live action one. So, this is an uncharted territory.
Well, absolutely. And I think, it just kind of shows the change in the times, where, we're coming up to the point where Walt Disney is run out of really good fairy tales to go off turn into cartoons. So they're almost forced to go off and to go back and to reimagine the stories that they've already told. And it was interesting because many of the quote-unquote heroines in, these movies that came out had to be rescued in the cartoons, but when they went off and they've started to turn them into live action stuff, you see, that these women, these young women, these girls have become much more empowered. And I think the first I think ever since they went off and came up with Frozen in particular, we've seen more and more of that.
Which our producers wanted me to point out they were doing a Frozen 2.
I don't really understand that. There's a story that I think you and I should go off and touch on another time, where it's been suggested that the girls from Frozen are the older sisters of Tarzan.
Yes. We are actually going to do an episode about movie trivia that you may not know.
I think we should just go and do a show about, the conspiracy theories that some people have come up with about Disney movie characters.
I definitely agree. One of our future shows definitely will be about Disney conspiracy theories. That kind of seems weird coming from us. The whole conspiracy theory idea isn't a huge fan of ours.
I don't know. I love conspiracy theories.
When they're not crackpot.
And some of the ones that that have been around for 20 years are actually kind of hilarious. But we'll bring that up in another time.
That'll be another show in the future.
And another one in the future. Before we get ready to go, I just want to thank everyone. We've had a really good reception to the last episode that we did in Pokemon. It's actually become, I think, our most popular episode, just as far as the number of hits and listens is went off and gone
per
day within the first 48 hours.
So obviously you the fans have determined you gotta catch them all.
Yeah, catch them all. But you know what? So if you guys have any other ideas for shows you want us to do, maybe we should do another video game show.
I definitely did enjoy our video game show.
And so Pokemon, and just kind of going back and talking about some of our favorite shows from when we were younger, particularly shows that apparently will be showing up on Nickelodeon's The Splat Network.
Yeah, and coming from technically different generations, we do have various different shows that you and I both grew up with. So that'll be interesting to talk
That
about
would be
as well.
interesting to talk about as well. So, again, thank you guys. Just a reminder that this Sunday, WWE presents Night of Champions. Main event is going to be Seth Rollins defending the World Heavyweight Championship against the Icon Sting.
Yeah, and my prediction right now is that Seth Rollins wins.
Yeah, I kind of think so as well. What I think both of us might be a little bit more excited about is that we're going to see the pay-per-view return of perhaps the greatest tag team of all time, the Dudley Boys, challenging New Day for the WWE Tag Team Championships.
And my prediction is New Day falls flat.
I'm predicting someone's going through a table. But you know what? We will go off and we're going to be talking about that show following the event. We'll be coming to you approximately 10:30 p.m. Central Time with our special guest, the man of the hour who always comes on the show with us when we do our wrestling shows. Of course, I'm talking about Big Mike. Thank God we don't have Sweet Daddy D coming back.
Yeah, that was an awkward episode.
I don't know, you were having a lot of fun there, but I mean, it's the only episode that I noticed that we've had so far that's been labeled explicit.
Yes, because usually we're pretty mild.
We're pretty mild. So you know what? Again, if you're a wrestling fan, tune in approximately 10:30 Central Time on Sunday, right after Night of Champions.
Yeah, follow us on Twitter. We will be posting pretty much live throughout the entire match, so you'll know approximately when we come on.
Yeah, exactly. We'll be going off and we'll be doing that. I'll try to go off and do some live tweeting during the event.
I definitely will.
My son's going to be with me, so I may not tweet as much as I would like. But you know what? Hey, try my best, and who knows? You might get some interesting tweets if my son grabs my phone. So you know what? In the meantime, and in between time,
whoa! Hold your horses here. First, you can follow myself on Twitter at RealCaptFizz. So at Real Captain Fizz. This is the first time ever that you have almost forgot.
Well, you know what?
To plug our Twitter.
I realize we're trying to keep all of our episodes under 45 minutes, and so I kind of felt like we were pressing for time here. But you know what? You can follow this crazy hombre at That Mask Guy. You can follow the show at FizzMask Show. You can look us up on Instagram. We're Fizz and Masked Show on there, and look us up on YouTube. We go off and we post all of our podcasts on there. We're again falling a little bit behind with updating YouTube on some of our episodes, and making some playlists. I'll try to get those playlists updated this weekend. So, and I'll try this once more in the words of wrestling legend and Ed Whalen. In the meantime, in between time, good night, God bless. And just because you messed me up, live long and prosper.
May the force be with you.
And may the force be with you.
So, as always, my glorious fans, stay frosty. Good night, everybody.
Good night!